Is it better being proactive than reactive? Today we're going to talk about proactive health. Hey and welcome to today's competence video with us at Goat Factory Group. My name is Adrian and together with me is my colleague, Coach Martin Stranta. All right, Martin, so today we're going to talk about proactive health. And that's a word that not everyone knows the meaning of. So could you explain a little bit what proactive health means?
So in the sense of health and lifestyle, proactive is doing something in prevention. So you're doing something before it happens. On the other side, there's reactive. So in our daily life today, we're more reactive to health. Something happens to us and then we start making changes. So living a proactive lifestyle is doing something right now to prevent from something happening in the future.
So when it comes to proactive health, it's technically minimizing risks of further, injuries or diseases or any kind of problems or obstacles that can come along the way that could have been prevented.
Exactly. So we have, for example, overweight, obesity, we have heart disease, we have different types of sicknesses that we actually can prevent with our daily lifestyle.
And that works the same way for even old age, because the more active you are throughout your life, the less kind of, injury-related things could happen once we get older.
Exactly. I mean, you maintain muscle. If you start training in your early days, you have better possibility of being more active and playing with your kids when you're older.
Well, as in today's society, we're doing a lot of things that we're maybe unaware of. So most of our, sitting still in front of the desk or in front of a screen, not being as active, not being outdoors as much anymore. All those things has kind of become a norm.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for our health. And this is stuff that actively is against living a proactive, healthy life.
Yeah.
So could you give any more examples of things that we do that we think that, everyone else does it?
Yeah.
How can we affect that?
Well, for example, we have poor diets. So we eat a lot of processed foods. We don't exercise as much. I mean, we used to be outdoors playing, running around, farming, stuff like that. But now we just, like you said, we sit a lot. Also poor sleep. We sleep less and less. We're more stressed in our daily life.
So in order to kind of, make this shift, most people, I would say sadly, wait for something to happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a small wake-up call, sometimes it's a big one. And then they start making changes. But how can we, proactively make the changes already, even though, the tendencies of the possible injuries are not there? It's like, because if you think that you feel okay, you're not going to expect that I'm going to feel bad later on. But how can we start now to kind of, better our chances?
Well, first of all, we have to be conscious of our daily lifestyle. And we know for a fact, things we said, exercise, diet, sleep, all these things impact our health. So start getting conscious, okay, I'm not moving that much. I'm not even exercising. My diet is pretty bad. So these are things I have to change to be healthier.
So we have the Goatness app.
Yep.
And we've developed it in a way to be a lifestyle app. A lot of people would see and think, it's a training app, and someone else would see it and see it's a food app or it's anything else. But it's technically made to help us with kind of controlling our lifestyle.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things that we've put into it that we assume, or we know for a fact, like you said, that once we're better at these parts, it'll be a lot better later on to actually make it better.
We can't predict the future, but we can always minimize the risk of something happening.
Exactly. So we work with about 5 topics, technically, and it has to do with our habits, training, our food, our self-reflection, but even, bettering our competence, our knowledge about training.
Yeah.
Give some few examples of things to think about in those categories.
Like you said, there's 5 parts. The first one is habits. So habits are the things that we do every day. So in the app, you can actually add what kind of habits you want to put in. So drink more water, move more, you put that in there. Then you have the daily exercise. For example, we have 3 workouts you can do, either one in the gym, outside, you can do one indoors. You also have a workout library. So doing that as a weekly habit is something very good. You have the meals. There we also have a weekly and a daily kind of a schedule of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a healthy snack. So you can go there, get some inspiration, and use that. You said we have the self-reflection. It's more about getting to know yourself, getting to know, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that to get better. Just to get to know yourself, and you can always improve on that.
And then the last part would have to do with the quizzes
Yeah.
and bettering our knowledge. What does that have to do with anything? Maybe some people would think.
Yeah, I mean, the more we know, the more we can impact the change. So if we don't have that much competence about health, it's hard to make the necessary changes because you don't know what to do. So the quizzes and the competence are super important to, okay, this is something I learned and I can improve on.
It sounds wonderful. And of course, the way we use the app is different for everyone. Some will use more inspiration in one part and some will need the other part way more. So it doesn't have to do that. Well, now you have to follow some sort of, I don't know, template. It's just, well, going from where you are and understanding, well, this is my current level, and then just trying to better that.
Exactly. Use it as a library. Pick and choose what fits you the best in your journey.
All right, so that kind of sums up a little bit about proactive health, and it has to do with understanding that whatever I do now will affect me later. So getting, well, into these more lifestyle changes could, of course, better our chances of living a longer and more healthy life. So make sure to check out the Goatness app everywhere where apps are. Thank you guys so much for listening to us, and stay tuned for another episode next week. Until then, take care.